Talk of trouble is sent through the country, and we need an army to fight for the right. Young men enlist and are sent to the battle to fight the offender and help our allies. And the young men cry, "Oh, Canada, we'll gladly go and fight for thee." And the young men cry, "Oh, Canada, we'll fight to keep you free." The battle's raging, gunfire is blazing. A tired young soldier is clinging to life. He's ordered on and obeys by advancing. No hope of returning from the enemy fire. And the soldier cries, "Oh, Canada, if it must be so, I'll die for thee." And the soldier cries, "Oh, Canada, I'll die to keep you free."
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for our national anthem.
We remember them. They fought for their lands, for their homes, and for their comrades beside them. These veterans still man our legions. They might sell you poppies outside of grocery stores. They wipe tears away at ceremonies, saluting with shaky hands to the wreaths on the cenotaphs. They are part of the fabric of the freedom Canada attained through fighting.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
As we gather to honor Canada's war dead this weekend, we should be reminded of what makes Canada and Canadians special. Governor General George Vanier, himself a veteran of the First World War, left Canadians a message in 1967 that's as important today as it was 50 years ago. La mesure de l'unité canadienne est la mesure de notre succès. Si nous imaginions que nous puissions aller nos propres directions au sein de notre pays. The measure of Canadian unity has been the measure of our success, if we imagine we can go our separate ways within our country.
Si nous exagérions nos différences ou si nous réjouissions en désaccord, nous promouvrons notre propre destruction. If we exaggerate our differences or revel in contentions, we will promote our own destruction.
Le Canada est responsable du monde pour rester unifié. Aucune liaison est plus essentielle que celle des bénéfices de l'unification. Canada owes it to the world to remain united, for no lesson is more badly needed than the one our unity can supply.
Nous apprenons que la diversité n'a pas besoin d'être la cause de conflit, mais au contraire pour promouvoir une vie beaucoup de plus noble et encore plus riche. The lesson that diversity need not be the cause for conflict, but on the contrary, may lead to richer and nobler living.
I am free to stand up for what I believe in.
I am free to say what needs to be said.
I am free to live in peace.
Free to remember.
Why we're true north, strong
and free.
On November 11th, remember those who served and sacrificed for freedom.
A message from the Government of Canada.
More and more today, the united sacrifices of Canadians are lost to the past. This year marks the 65th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, sometimes known as the Forgotten War. The 26,000 Canadian veterans of the conflict were often welcomed home by an indifferent public in one of Canada's least known theaters of conflict. 516 never came home. Soldiers endured extreme and unpredictable weather as dangerous as the enemy. They fell asleep in water up to their chests after monsoon rains melted their trenches into sludge and muck. During the winter months, they faced the constant threat of frostbite and hypothermia as bitter cold jammed weapons and froze rations into ice. Today, we remember Captain Ed Mastronardi. The Royal Canadian Regiment's known for its quiet professionalism. Its cardinal principles of pro patria and never pass a fault reflect a regiment whose soldiers are tough and who can be counted on to get the job done with minimum fanfare. Good-natured, as well as competent and thorough, RCR soldiers are very much the embodiment of the Canadian personality. Perhaps no one in the RCR manifested these qualities more than Ed Mastronardi. In 2006, as a young platoon commander, I had the opportunity to speak with Ed. He taught me many things. He taught me what it's like to lead soldiers in battle. He taught me what it's like to kill. And he taught me what it's like to have soldiers under your command die. He taught me that when it comes to taking risks, leaders always go first. In command of an infantry platoon of 28 men on the Songduk Spur, Mastronardi was part of the defense against an 8-hour attack by a full Chinese battalion. In 2016, Ed passed away, and many of his fellow veterans of the Korean War will soon follow. We remember them. This is their story.
It was November 1951, and Lieutenant Ed Mastronardi was about to celebrate his 27th birthday on a barren piece of rock in Korea. But the party would have to wait. It was the height of the Korean War. He had 28 Canadian soldiers under his command, and 1,000 Chinese troops were on the move. The odds couldn't be worse, and only one man could save the day, the 29th hero.
We owe it to ourselves, to each other, to our children, and to each other's children, to do everything human foresight can suggest to prevent the disasters of a Third World War.
They forget that on each side, there was almost 1 million troops, each side, Chinese and United Nations. To enlist was the thing that you did. I wanted to prove that I could do it. Whether you play hard on a football team or you're in the middle of a hell of a fight with a platoon of men, 28 men fighting off, and there's no exaggeration, 1,000 Chinese, a battalion. We threw a total of 350 grenades over that 8-hour period, and I must have tossed about 50 of them. The reason being, I could throw it much further than anyone else, and I could pinpoint it, and I threw it just like a spiral. Twisted the wrist, and out it went. It was just incredible. Such men. Such men. For that awful piece of real estate. But that's what we're called upon to do. And I don't think that's recognized or understood, to be honest with you.
Stop! Let's stop joking around so we can get this done. Do that, rotate.
That outpost, it's a world all of its own. My place. I was meant to be there.
So I think what I want to get into first here is, sir, we'll be on the Bren gunner, the loader here. What is the deal with, can they fire the Bren gun? Yeah. Yeah, there's no danger with what's right there? Can they fire? Like if you aim for that space between there, that will work. That works for me.
Listening, hearing the tanks coming up, knowing someone's going to get hit, and then suddenly realizing, my God, it's us. And knowing that you're going to be in it for the fight of your life. And when they yelled out, Canada boy, tonight you die, I shouted back, come and get us, you son of a bitch. And we had one hell of a fight for the next 8-9 hours.
The guns will be hot on this one, folks.
So we're really firing
eyes and ears
this
on this one. And here we go. Let's turn it over.
Right.
Rolling, rolling.
And action.
This may surprise you, but that night I was exhilarated. I felt a tremendous rush, determined that we weren't going to quit. We were not going to quit. They blew the wire, and they blew a gap about a good 8-10 feet wide, and they stormed it.
With the wire breached, there's nothing to slow down the next attack. The 28 Canadians are about to be overrun.
I was virtually out of ammunition. I had 16 wounded. I had roughly 11, 12 men left. If they overran me, they'd kill all the wounded. And if I'm proud of anything of that, that's what I'm really proud of getting them back successfully. It was the fantastic destruction. Bodies, Chinese bodies, everywhere, right around my command post. The three of them that I shot right around my command post. There's no glory in killing people, particularly if you happen to be good at it. It's nothing to be proud of.
Is this good for you as well? Can we put a little mud in there too?
Yeah, definitely. We'll schmutz this up too. We'll hide your white a little bit.
This is actually the final scene of the program in which Ed returns to the position after the night of the battle to recover his one guy that was killed during the battle. He insisted on coming back. He had just fought all night, and they were going to send a different company down. He said to his commander, I want to go with my guys, and I want to go back and get Campo.
He died with his Bren gun, protecting the wounded being moved out. He could, behind him, he'd taken the full blast right in the chest. And that little prayer, in which I said over Campo, stayed with me always. It's very close to my heart. Help me, O God, when death is near, to mock the haggard face of fear. That if I fall I must, my soul will triumph into the dust. Amen. And that's part of my... And I still pray that. After all these years. I'm sort of glad, I guess I've lived this long for them. It's just so it won't be completely forgotten.
This year also marks another landmark anniversary. 100 years ago, the London Free Press reported the following. The news of Germany's capitulation was given shortly after 3 o'clock this morning. The news traveled quickly. The fire department ran an engine out onto King Street, and their siren was left open, the shrill notes reaching nearly all parts of the city. A huge bonfire was started at the corner of Dundas and Richmond Streets. The flames were so high that the fire department was needed out of fear that the nearby buildings would soon be engulfed. Small impromptu parades were quickly formed. People came out of private residences and apartment houses in numerous cases to learn the news, and patriotic fervor and joy were unbounded. Canadians in Belgium were celebrating that day too, after the liberation of the city of Mons, fighting almost up until 11 o'clock. 38 Canadians were killed in the final hours of the battle. Those soldiers were laid out in the Grand Place Square by the civilians, those who had lived for 4 years under German occupation, and they placed flowers and wreaths with them to honor them. Meanwhile, back in Canada, when the armistice was finally confirmed later that day, the mayor issued a public proclamation declaring November 11th as a public holiday. All London citizens were invited to join in celebrating victory in Victoria Park downtown. People from factories, warehouses, and stores all poured into the streets, which were alive with joyous and enthusiastic citizens. People flooded into London to join the festivities. The women of the Red Cross led a victory march. It was estimated about 50,000 people gathered in the park. The mood was characterized by the comments of one of the speakers that day. Reverend R.G. Peever said, "This is not an ordinary peace celebration. It is one of the greatest moments in history." That evening, an even greater bonfire was lit as the party continued well into the next day. This celebration was just a taste of what would be in store when soldiers actually returned home. It took about 6 months to repatriate soldiers home from overseas. The return of the 1st Battalion, CEF, to London was set to take place April 24, 1919, and was declared as a public holiday. The parade began at York and Richmond Streets. Great War veterans, previously returned members of the 1st Battalion and the 1st Battalion CEF, marched to Carling Heights, Wolseley Barracks. The parade heard speeches from the mayor and a few other dignitaries, and afterwards the ropes of the enclosure were cut, and the relatives and friends streamed in to see their loved ones. Those who were there described many gripping scenes as mother, father, brother, sister, wife, and sweetheart greeted their boys just home from foreign lands, home from the battle-scarred fields of France and Flanders. We are left to wonder at the anguish and heartache felt by those in attendance who had loved ones killed overseas. Those mothers who wore the memorial cross, the medal nobody wanted. The end of the war didn't end the medical care required for Canada's wounded. 8,000 Canadians were still in hospital in France, and another 40,000 in hospital in Great Britain. Some would require dedicated treatment for the rest of their lives. How exactly the government would do that was not clear. London was home to Westminster Psychopathic Hospital, which was completed and opened for patients on May 1st, 1920. As a military hospital, it was used primarily to treat and rehabilitate veterans with psychological injuries and shell shock suffered during World War I. Soon, the need for medical and surgical treatment for veterans was recognized, and by a policy change in 1929, such wards were established, and it was renamed Westminster Hospital. The first Remembrance Day in 1919 took on a less celebratory and more commemorative tone. On November 7th, the Free Press published a message from the King. To all my people, Tuesday next, November 11th, is the first anniversary of the armistice, which stayed the worldwide carnage of the 4 preceding years and marked the victory of right and freedom. I believe that my people in every part of the empire fervently wish to perpetuate the memory of that great deliverance and those who laid down their lives to achieve it. To afford an opportunity for the universal expression of this feeling, it is my desire and hope that at the hour when the armistice came into force, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, there may be, for the brief space of 2 minutes, a complete suspension of all our normal activities. During that time, except in rare cases where this might be impractical, all work, all sound, and all locomotion should cease, so that in perfect stillness, the thoughts of everyone may be concentrated on reverent remembrance of the glorious dead. Similar to ceremonies in London, England, Londoners in Canada did exactly that. The Free Press quipped that 2 minutes out of 1,440 was hardly enough to honor the fallen, but we've done it every year since, for 99 years. Over 2,000 ex-servicemen gathered for the first official Remembrance Day service in London in 1919. The Free Press published London's honor roll, listing all the men and the 4 nursing sisters from London who were killed in the war. In 1934, the cenotaph at Victoria Park became the focal point for Remembrance Day ceremonies. This year marks 100 years of tradition for this country and for this city. You can attend Remembrance Day ceremonies downtown at the Cenotaph in Victoria Park or at Wolseley Barracks, home to the Royal Canadian Regiment Museum. I would encourage you to take 2 minutes of your day this Sunday to remember.
Canadians should pause to remember the centennial of the end of the war to end all wars. The soldiers of 1918 were not all saints and heroes, but there were saints and heroes among them. They fought for Canada, and the least we can do is stand for a few moments of silence to remember them. Canadians, at the very least, owe them that, and much, much more. We forget what makes those soldiers special. We forget what makes us special. And we forget what makes this country special at our peril. I'll leave you with the words of Prime Minister Robert Borden. Let us never forget the solemn truth that a nation is not constituted of the living alone. There are those as well who have passed away and those yet to be born. So this great responsibility comes to us as heirs of the past and trustees of the future. But with that responsibility, there comes something greater still, the opportunity of proving ourselves worthy of it. And I pray that this may not be lost. Pro Patria.
They fought and some died for their homeland. They fought and some died, now it's our land. Look at his little child, there's no fear in her eyes. Could he not show respect for other dads who have died? Take 2 minutes, would you mind? It's a pittance of time for the boys and the girls who went over. In peace may they rest, may we never forget why they died. It's a pittance of time.